the most dangerous border on Earth, where World War could start overnight. It's guarded by hundreds of thousands of soldiers, covered in landmines, surrounded by artillery, missiles, and nuclear weapons. One wrong move here doesn't just start a battle, it could trigger a chain reaction powerful enough to pull in the entire world. Welcome to the most dangerous border on Earth. Now, at first, you might think you already know the answer. Maybe you're picturing the tense divide between North and South Korea. Maybe you're thinking about the long-standing conflict between India and Pakistan. And you wouldn't be wrong to consider them, because both of those borders are among the most militarized and volatile on the planet. But the real answer isn't just about which border has the most troops or the most weapons. It's about something more critical. Which border carries the highest risk of turning a small incident into a global catastrophe? Because not all dangerous borders are equal. Some are violent, some are unstable. But only a few have the power to reshape the world overnight. Let's start with one of the most famous borders in modern history. The line dividing North Korea and South Korea. Known as the Korean Demilitarized Zone, or simply the DMZ, it stretches roughly 250 kilometers, about 160 miles, across the Korean peninsula. Despite its name, this is not a demilitarized zone in the traditional sense. In reality, it is one of the most heavily fortified borders on Earth. The origin of this division goes back to the Korean War, which ended not with a peace treaty, but with an armistice in 1953. That means, technically, North and South Korea are still at war. On both sides of the DMZ, massive military forces are positioned within close proximity. Artillery units are pre-targeted. Armored divisions are on standby. Advanced surveillance systems monitor every movement, every day, every hour. And beneath the surface lies another danger: landmines. Tens of thousands of them. Some estimates suggest that millions of mines were placed during and after the war, many of which remain active today. Over the decades, this border has seen numerous violent incidents: armed clashes, infiltration attempts, defections, even direct confrontations between soldiers. Dozens of South Korean and American personnel have been killed in incidents along this border since the armistice. But what raises the stakes even higher is the presence of nuclear weapons. North Korea possesses nuclear capabilities and continues to develop missile technology capable of reaching not only regional targets, but potentially the United States. On the other side, South Korea is backed by the military power of the United States, including its nuclear umbrella. This creates a situation where any escalation could rapidly expand beyond the Korean peninsula, and yet, despite all of this, the DMZ has one defining characteristic. It is controlled. Highly controlled. Both sides understand the consequences of escalation. Communication channels, though limited, exist. Military protocols are strict. Every action is calculated. That makes the situation extremely dangerous, but also relatively predictable. Now let's move to another region that many analysts consider even more volatile: the border between India and Pakistan. More specifically, the line of control, which divides the disputed region of Kashmir. This conflict dates back to the partition of India, when British colonial rule ended and the subcontinent was split into two nations. The division triggered one of the largest migrations in human history and widespread violence that killed hundreds of thousands. Since then, India and Pakistan have fought multiple wars, many centered on Kashmir. Today, the line of control is one of the most militarized borders in the world. Thousands of troops are stationed along mountainous terrain. The area is fortified with fencing, surveillance systems, bunkers, and heavy weaponry. Artillery exchanges and small-scale skirmishes have been common over the years, but what makes this border particularly dangerous is not just the history or the ongoing tension. It's the nuclear factor. Both India and Pakistan possess nuclear weapons. Estimates suggest that each country has roughly 160 to 180 nuclear warheads, with delivery systems that include ballistic missiles and aircraft. Unlike the Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union, where extensive communication systems and deterrence strategies were developed over decades, the India-Pakistan relationship operates under far tighter timelines and less predictable conditions. There have been several major crises. In 2001, after an attack on India's parliament, both countries mobilized troops along the border. In 2008, the Mumbai attacks escalated tensions once again. In 2019, following a suicide bombing in Pulwama, India launched airstrikes inside Pakistani territory, the first such strikes in decades. Each time the situation moved dangerously close to full-scale war, and each time global powers intervened diplomatically to prevent escalation. Because the margin for error here is extremely small. Troops are close, response times are short, and political pressure on both sides is intense. A single miscalculation could lead to rapid escalation. That's why many experts describe this region as one of the world's most likely nuclear flashpoints. But even here, there is a pattern. Escalation, followed by de-escalation. Despite the hostility, both nations have shown a degree of restraint. There are back-channel communications. There are signals. There is, to some extent, an understanding of the risks. So if it's not the Korean Peninsula, and it's not South Asia, then where is the most dangerous border on Earth? The answer lies in a place that doesn't always look like a single border on a map. It's a broader frontier, a geopolitical fault line, the boundary between NATO and Russia. This is not just one location. It stretches across Eastern Europe, from the Baltic states like Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, down through Poland and into the regions surrounding Ukraine. On one side, you have NATO, a military alliance of over 30 countries led by the United States, with advanced technology, integrated command structures, and collective defense agreements. On the other side, you have Russia, a nuclear superpower with one of the largest military arsenals in the world. This is not just a regional rivalry, it is a confrontation between major global powers. And since the Russian invasion of Ukraine, this frontier has become one of the most militarized and tense regions on Earth. NATO has increased troop deployments in Eastern Europe. New defense systems have been installed. Air patrols have intensified. Military exercises have expanded in scale and frequency. At the same time, Russia has reinforced its Western military districts, deployed advanced missile systems, and demonstrated new capabilities, including hypersonic weapons. This is not a frozen conflict. It is active, dynamic, and constantly evolving. Unlike the Korean DMZ, where both sides maintain strict control, or the India-Pakistan border, where escalation patterns are somewhat understood. The NATO-Russia frontier is defined by uncertainty. Military aircraft regularly fly close to each other in contested airspace. Naval vessels shadow one another in the Baltic and Black Seas. Cyber attacks and electronic warfare operations occur in the background. Every move is monitored, every move is interpreted, and sometimes misinterpreted. Now consider this. A missile is detected by radar, but its origin is unclear. Is it an accident, a test, or an attack? A military exercise begins near the border, but it is perceived as preparation for invasion. A drone crosses into restricted airspace, but its purpose is unknown. In such an environment, decisions must be made quickly, often in minutes, and those decisions carry enormous consequences, because this is what makes this border different. It's not just about the number of soldiers, it's not just about the presence of weapons, it's about scale. A conflict here would not remain local. It would trigger NATO's collective defense principle, Article 5, where an attack on one member is considered an attack on all. That means multiple countries would be involved almost immediately, and many of those countries possess advanced military capabilities, including nuclear weapons. This raises the stakes to a level unmatched anywhere else in the world, because while the Korean Peninsula is dangerous, it is geographically contained. While India and Pakistan are volatile, their conflict is largely regional. But a direct confrontation between NATO and Russia, that has global implications. That is the kind of conflict that could escalate into a world war. And the warning signs are there. Military spending is increasing across Europe. Defense alliances are strengthening. New technologies like autonomous drones, cyber weapons, and hypersonic missiles are being deployed at a rapid pace. At the same time, diplomatic communication between major powers has become more strained. Trust is lower, tensions are higher, and history has shown something important. Wars don't always begin because leaders plan them. Sometimes they begin because of miscalculation, because of misunderstanding, because of a moment where tension turns into action faster than anyone can control. That's why the most dangerous border in the world isn't just defined by conflict, it's defined by consequence. And right now, no border carries greater global consequences than the one separating NATO and Russia. For the United States, this is not a distant issue. It is direct. American troops are stationed across Europe. American systems are integrated into NATO's defense network. American policy decisions influence how this entire situation unfolds. That means what happens here doesn't stay overseas. It affects global stability. It affects economic systems. It affects national security. And in the worst-case scenario, it could affect millions of lives. So when we ask what the most dangerous border on Earth is, we're really asking a deeper question. Where is the next major global conflict most likely to begin? And the answer is not simple, because the world is filled with pressure points. The Korean Peninsula, South Asia, Eastern Europe, each one carries risk. Each one has the potential for escalation. But only one combines global military power, nuclear capability, and active, ongoing tension at the highest level. And that is the frontier between NATO and Russia. Because in today's world, borders are no longer just lines on a map. They are flashpoints, triggers, and some triggers are far more dangerous than others. The question is not whether these tensions exist. They do. The question is whether they can be controlled. Because history has shown that once control is lost, events move faster than anyone expects. And by the time the world realizes what's happening, it may already be too late.